Hello and welcome to this webinar on how to cope better with significant life changes. The biggest change which we all face right now is working from home and not being able to move freely around. Also, some of us face the challenge of having relatives ill and/or having our employer badly affected by the outbreak response. So my name is Johanna Scheutzow. I'm a business psychologist at Thrive, and I will co-host this webinar with Dr. Andres Fonseca, who may introduce himself. Hi, Andres.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thanks very much for logging in. And we hope this seminar is going to be useful, particularly relevant given what we're facing at the moment. So yes, I'm going to be monitoring what people are sort of talking about on the chat and the questions, and I'll bring in some of those as we go along. So I'll just hand over to Johanna to carry on now.
Yes. So this webinar, we will talk about different aspects. So what are life changes? How do they affect us? Resilience and personal growth. And we'll give you some practical tips in the end. We all experience life transitions, significant experiences or traumatic life events at some point in our life. Key events may be death in your family, losing your job, sudden financial issues, and family-related changes or issues. The change in life can also have positive consequences, such as marriage or being a parent. Change inevitably creates uncertainty. When things stay the same, we feel that we know what we can expect on a day-to-day basis. When something shifts, even our sense of who we are can go through some odd and potential uncomfortable alterations. This is what people tend to call an identity crisis. For instance, even though you want to be in a lasting relationship, you know you were when you were single. When you get married, something changes inside you as well as with regard to your status in the world. You may feel awkward and unsure of yourself, and even if you don't say it out loud, you may silently be unsure of who you are now. The same is true when we move from one home to another, from one job to another, from one town to another, or even when you become a parent and get married, divorced, and so on. Both unhappy and happy life transitions can lead to emotional and physical distress. Stress is a condition or feeling experienced when we perceive that demand exceeds our personal and social resources. So in other words, we feel stressed when we feel that things are completely out of control. Our ability to cope with the demands upon us is the key to our experience of stress. For example, working from home might be a manageable change for you, but as soon as family members get ill or you experience financial problems, you might find it very hard to cope right now.
Yeah, I mean, the two main points there to sort of remember are that these stressors can be both positive and negative, and sort of they seem to sort of add up. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, and also that they can affect us negatively even if we have something that seems positive, like moving jobs or becoming a parent, for example. So yeah, those are the two great main ideas to bear in mind as we go forward.
Yeah. So how does stress affect our health? These life events, which I just mentioned, can trigger a wide range of physical and mental health conditions. This can happen when stress exposure is too intense for us to handle, chronic, uncontrollable, or overwhelming. It can also cause burnout, depression, anxiety, and numerous physical conditions such as immune or heart problems or other medical conditions. Some stressors are ongoing, such as being bullied or harassed, bad relationships, poverty, or even the impact of environmental stressors, such as extreme weather conditions and global warming, or for the next few weeks, the outbreak and its consequences. Among those ongoing stressors, it's worth considering work-related stressors such as overwork, culture, changing demands, uncertainty, and many others. These might also be caused by external factors or made worse, like the outbreak of COVID-19 and the effects it can have in our work environment. Sometimes, though, it's a single event that is so powerful that all by itself can have a lasting effect on our mental health. These types of events can lead to trauma and specific mental health conditions, which Andres just mentioned, and even lead to post-traumatic stress disorder and adjustment disorder. After trauma, it is common, so we have to keep that in mind, for people to have a flurry and unpredictable emotions and physical symptoms, including sadness, irritability, heightened alertness, problems with sleep, flashbacks, feeling emotionally numb or unable to enjoy something. So if we think about the psychological impact for people who really have to be in quarantine right now, this can actually cause post-traumatic stress symptoms, depression, feelings of anger and fear, and substance misuse. So yeah, it's really impactful right now. So we have to think about like different life changes and our health. So sometimes we are unable to cope with the change, but how much of this does it take to push you over the edge, or myself? Not all unusual events are equally hard to deal with. So for example, compare the stress of divorce with that of a change in responsibilities. So they're obviously not the same. One way researchers have looked at life changes is by trying to see which one have more effect than others on the average person. After interviewing a lot of people, they came up with a scale that orders common life events by how potent they are. At the top of the list, you find things like the death of a spouse or divorce. Interestingly, you also find getting married or being reconciled with your spouse. Near the bottom of your list, you find vacation and change in eating habits. The point is that the researchers that compiled the scale found that both positive and negative events can increase the risk of having a mental health condition. When you use the scale, it weights these events and calculates a total based on how many of them you have experienced, both positive and negative, as we know that the effect of these life events is cumulative. This is a classic example of when it rains, it pours. What this means is that although some people embrace and even seek out change, most of us resist it, even when it's about something we really want. Learning to manage transitions may be one of the most important lessons in our life. As a side point, so this is really good, really important to mention. Please note that the scale looks at the average effect of these events and that every person responds to these differently. So some people will find items down the list much more stress-inducing than some of the items at the top. So what I mean with that is that stress caused by a particular stressor varies greatly from one person to the next because of the variability in the individual circumstances, interpretations, their goals, or our personality, value, coping strategy, and our resources, which we have right now in the moment. So consequently, interpreting the overall score might be a little difficult because of the large interpersonal differences in an individual's ability to cope and their particular reaction to stress. This is why the scale don't rely on specific events, but ask about the impact any unspecified event is having on the individual, are far more reliable. So, for example, now where on the list is it mentioned of the pandemic, having to work from home or facing empty shelves at the supermarket right now? But we all know that those cause us quite a bit of stress right now. Research into the effects of life events on our health seems to suggest that change in life requires an effort to adapt and then an effort to regain stability again. This is what we must all be in mind during the present climate especially. So resilience and personal growth. Andres, you were planning to give an example from Brothers in Arms to us?
Yeah, that's right. One of our main partners is a charity called Brothers in Arms, and what they do is they help men try to seek help as early as possible, because as we know, men are particularly at risk of suicide. So they are a charity that is very much focused on getting men to seek help early. And the reason I wanted to mention it here is because the founder, I think the whole idea for the charity came from a very traumatic personal experience and a range of life changes. I think he had problems at work, problems at home, quite severe problems at home and at work. He was coping with a lot of stress, really, and a lot of big changes, and they affected him quite negatively. And he found it really, really hard to seek help at the time. And actually, what made the final change is when he was himself seriously considering suicide. That in itself was a trigger for him, a traumatic event that made him reconsider what he was doing and made him, after having faced all this adversity, try to sort of see it in a different light. He was thinking about what effect it was going to have on his family, and also the fact that he went through all these things and he didn't feel like there was anything out there for him. So all these trauma that he went through, even the experience of having to confront these thoughts of suicide, made him then go on to found the charity and be working to get a lot more men to seek help at the right time and deal with these issues as soon as they appear. So for him, when he came out of the other side of that horrible time that he experienced, it was a very, it was a life-changing experience, and it made him refocus his whole life for the service of others and to try to prevent other men from going through what he went through. So that's a good example of something like what we're talking about here.
Yeah, great, thank you. So you can see we come to the positive side of all the negativity right now. So this is the good news is that it's possible to manage these stressors, and it turns out become healthier as a result. In fact, one of the signs of emotional health is the capacity to bounce back from difficult situations, which we call resilience. Therefore, life changes can help us to thrive, as well as provide us with a sense of personal growth, increased resilience, and self-empowerment. So people develop a new understanding of themselves, the world they live in, how to relate to other people, the kind of future they might have, and a better understanding of how to live life in general. Hence, this crisis and its causing changes to our life may change the way we perceive the relevance of health or the relationships to our family, friends, colleagues. So yeah, changes may also allow us to grasp the knowledge of using the pain to change our lives for the better, as well as give us the desire to share the experiences with others to help them overcome similar events. Some of us may embrace new situations, both on the personal and professional fronts, improve our personal relationships with our loved ones, and develop heightened sense of gratitude towards all together. So there are various ways you can increase your well-being and enhance resilience. For example, you may use cognitive behavioral therapy to understand your reaction to the event and manage your thoughts and emotions productively. You may also want to try to attach a positive meaning to the event in terms of personal growth, as I just explained. This positive reappraisal as a coping strategy has been shown to increase optimism, self-esteem, and reduce anxiety. The aim is to shift your attention away from negative reflexive thinking about the adverse event to a more positive outcome by focusing on response-oriented thinking.
Yeah, I mean, what that all means is looking at how this traumatic, difficult event has made you know more about yourself, more about the world. How have you grown? Are you now more prepared to face this kind of thing when it happens in the future? Or what have you discovered about what is important in life? You know, what have you discovered about the meaning of what you do? Is there something here that you've learned and that you can take away and that has made you as a result stronger and more prepared to face challenges in the future? that's kind of what this is getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, so for example, if we easily let our thoughts circle around things like how we could have prevented it, but this may not be in our control right now. So we should rather try to think about what we can actually control. What can we learn from this, and what can we do for ourselves to improve our well-being?
Yeah, and also focus on what can we do for others.
Yeah.
You know, during this difficult time, we are all sort of thinking about how is it going to affect us. But for example, many people are working even harder now than they were before, and finding meaning in their work. You know, the fact that they are there and that they are, you know, kind of facing the challenge is actually improving the lives of many other people. So just focus on what it is that, you know, we're all going through a difficult situation, but what is it about this situation that we can do to actually work harder for one another and make sure that we take care of each other.
Yeah. And also in terms of the current crisis, you may start thinking about how you can use the time at home to learn, for example, a new skill like meditation or drawing. So the shift in mindset is nothing we learn overnight, but you will be guided through a CBT program step by step. So also seek out other healthy coping strategies such as exercise, as good as possible, obviously, insight maybe, relaxation techniques, playing or listening to music, spending time with your family members at home or with friends via FaceTime. And yeah, Andres, maybe you want to provide people with an example.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about, so one of the biggest challenges, for example, in this present situation and all the big changes that are coming is we know that spending time outdoors is very healthy. So how can we do this when in some cases we're asked to sort of limit our movements and isolate ourselves? So as you know, the situation in Spain is quite, is a lot more serious than it is here. I don't have a lot of details on the situation in Italy, but I do know something about the situation in Spain. And what they're doing there is a lot of people sort of living in inner city Madrid, and they don't have access to, say, a garden or anything like that. So they're becoming quite creative. And what they're doing is they are going outside in their own balconies, and they are having like community events, you know, all the neighbors together by coming out to the balcony and sharing time together and singing songs together. I think that they do that in Italy as well. And doing things like thanking healthcare professionals and building a sense of community, even though they cannot really be together. They just go out into their own balcony and spend time with each other, doing it that way. That's a creative way to try and cope with the big changes that have very rapidly occurred.
Yeah. Some other practical tips. So if we not think right now about the current situation on COVID-19, but if you're initiating a life change, remind yourself why you're making the change. For instance, maybe you always wanted to move to a big city, but now that you're doing it, you're terrified and stressed. So really remind yourself why you wanted to move. What are your goals? What are you hoping to achieve by that? And what do you need to do to follow through on those goals? So really making rather short-term goals, but also long-term goals. But yeah, really thinking about what are your goals? Why did you do this change? So another important aspect is connect to others. So we are all human being like social creatures. So research has shown that isolation increases stress and connection decreases it. So really allow yourself time to talk honestly about how you feel, particularly with close ones and people who are in the same situation or have suffered something similar to you. You don't have to be best friends with someone to connect with them. Ask yourself what your preferred support system might be. So maybe it's helpful for you to reach out to your community, including family, friends, colleagues, or even like online groups. You will discover that you're not alone, and you might feel soothed even if you're still stressed. In fact, if you get help with this transition, you will be stronger for the next one. And I think this is an important aspect, like especially when we focus on the situation right now. So I think in the end, we will really build our resilience from all this and be faced way stronger for the next maybe outbreak of riots. So thanks to our current technology, we can still do it even at time like this. Previous global pandemics did not allow people to connect at all. So we might be actually in this aspect quite lucky, so that we all have Zoom calls with our colleagues and still can do FaceTime with our family members. So yeah, I think we should use all the tools which we have available to make the best out of the situation.
Yeah, as an example, this morning we all had a call together. Every member of the company, every staff member, and that was very good. So we were able to sort of just have a quiet chat amongst ourselves as a team, not really focusing on work, but more on making a connection between one another and you know, telling each other what's going on, and you know, things as simple as still sharing how was our weekend, even though it's a very different weekend than many other previous weekends. But at least we retain a little bit of normality and connected with one another. So yeah, things like that might be something that everybody wants to try.
Yeah, and especially like we are used to being like surrounded by our colleagues and like check in, like maybe in the with a coffee next to each other, but this is now missing. So we should really try to cope with this by using a FaceTime or Zoom call or like even just a call to really have a sense of how the other person is feeling right now, and maybe not just through a chat, because yeah, sometimes people can't really open via a chat, but maybe it's just like a short call and kind of like coping the like missing contact which we normally have with our colleagues at work right now. So another point is find ways to soothe yourself. So self-care is one of the most important tools for managing change and developing resilience. Whether you go for a run, if this is possible or right now, or read a book, if it helps you feel calmer, it's helping you to make the difficult jump from one place to another. Do something that isn't automatic, like something, for example, cleaning your apartment and like trying a new recipe, which is like ultimately healthier for you in the end. Yeah. So another aspect which is really important, don't judge yourself. So it's okay and normal to be nervous about change or even a good one. So it's also normal to have a hard time managing this transition here right now, like working at home and not being able to have this like gap between work and home anymore. But no matter how awkwardly or uncomfortable you might do it, give yourself credit for having the courage to take it on. So yeah, really allow yourself time, have patience with yourself, maybe take, for example, I read about a self-care box for times when you're struggling. So maybe have a box in your room with books, movies, when you feel really stressed out, where you can have a look inside and yeah, immediately maybe feel calmer, or like take one of those movies which you really like and watch it to feel better afterwards. However, we are not always able to cope with our experiences on our own, so don't be afraid to ask for help. Allow yourself time to process your thoughts and feelings and talk about them to people who you trust. So if you're unable to sleep, feel constantly worried or on the edge, get little pleasure out of things once enjoyed, you should really ask for support, which could either be your EAP or your GP.
Yeah, that's very important. So I think just the first bit of it was about trying to seek help and not be afraid. A lot of time we're reluctant to do it. Maybe at this time we're even more reluctant to do it because we feel that maybe the health care service is under pressure, etc. But your employers have made a range of resources available, and I think it's important to take them on and use them if you need them, and don't feel afraid to seek help. Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about like a tool which you can practice, or like mindfulness really helps you to non-judgmentally be aware of your thoughts and experience. So this is maybe a good way of really practicing to not judge yourself and be more aware of those processes.
Yeah, and just taking the time to soothe yourself, just making those preparations, maybe, you know, even creating that care package for yourself, that in itself is soothing and therapeutic, and one should take time to do it, and not feel, don't judge yourself. It's normal to feel anxious in a time like this, definitely.
No, definitely. And also like thinking about if you feel that you're really worried, maybe you really stick to a specific time on a day and a time frame where you allow yourself to worry about something. And then after the time is done, you continue with thinking about other stuff, but really allow yourself a worry time maybe and write down your worries, and then maybe helps you to give them a cut and then continue with being more unjudgmental with yourself afterwards. In terms of traumatic experiences, get to know your triggers. So experiences, situations, people might trigger reactions or flashbacks. So this is again in the Thrive app. It will help you to keep a mood journal to spot patterns and identify the triggers. So in this case, a big challenge and daunting change is to seek help in itself. But it's better to act as soon as possible rather than avoid the issues. So this is really important to think about. So within the app, you all have access to the app, Thrive app. There are various techniques to build your resilience and cope with those life changes. So as I mentioned before, cognitive behavioral therapy is a really good tool to really, think about like be aware of your negative thoughts, what the helpfulness of them, and really identify negative and positive thoughts from each other. And also, like if you're stressed out in the moment, calm breathing or relaxation exercises like the muscle relaxation are really good to calm you down in this moment. So they're really, like for example, calm breathing is a really short exercise which you can practice at any time, and feel really calm afterwards. So the technique when you're really stressed out in the moment. And also like give them a try. Meditation I mentioned before, it's really good to being more being more aware of your thoughts in a non-judgmental way. So it's really helpful for. Remember that change is part of your life, whether you choose it or has just been thrust onto you, whether it's a change you have been working for or one that has taken you by surprise. Really embrace the experience and consider this transition as an opportunity to build internal psychological, emotional, and intellectual muscles that will help you with the next change. I hope this was really helpful for you. If you have any questions, please shoot out them now and we will try to answer them as much as possible. And sorry again for the break. Really sorry.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking whether they can have the slides or a recording, and we will make it available after the call to everybody. So yeah, sorry about that initial glitch. We did record the initial part of it as well, so we'll put it together. We'll try to edit it so it's like seamless, and then you can all sort of enjoy it, in one seamless go. There's another question about where we can access this and previous webinar recordings. We are planning the best way to do it. We're talking to all the partners that we are working with, all the employers, and some people sort of seem to have different kind of firewalls at work, so it makes it difficult to find the best platform. So we're still thinking about what the best way to make it available, but we're thinking it might be, some of it might be on YouTube, just sending you the link, and then you don't need to, all of us are at home anyway, so you don't need to do it through the work systems. You can do it just in your own time. So I think we'll probably have to do that. Somebody's asking about how to get access codes for the app. So they should be with your employer. Your employer should have the codes. And if you are not finding the codes, please email us. I'll type on the answers the email to sort of reach us so we can discover what your code is and send it to you. So the email is help@thrive.uk.com. But I've just answered your colleague who asked, so you can see it there as well. Yeah, so the YouTube, somebody's asking about the YouTube access code. It won't be a particular access code. It's going to be a link to the video. It'll be a private video, but you'll be able to view it with the link, and we will send the link across. I think it is possible to use Eventbrite to do this, so that's what we'll try to do. We'll make it available through Eventbrite so everybody can see it there, and then you can just click on it and get it done. It'll take us a couple of days to edit because it came out in 2 parts, as you know. So we just need to sort of put them all together into one seamless file, and then we'll upload it and we'll share it. Yeah, but apologies about that. Don't know if there's any other questions. Yeah, thank you all for listening to us, and yeah, I'm glad to sort of hear Martha here telling us that thank you very much. Interesting times for all of us, but we'll get through it. I very much agree with you, Martha. It is a challenge, and I think it's important to know that we can be stronger and that we can really support one another through this challenging time. I think those are the 2 most important messages. Yeah. These live events will happen, and we just need to muster our resources and improve our resilience, work on ourselves, but also very much look at others and how can we help them. So thank you all. Thank you, very gratifying to do these things with you.
Yeah, thank you so much.